If you're a St. Louisan, there's no way you've been able to open up your phone or computer lately without seeing all the videos about new proposals for data centers in St. Louis and St. Charles. And it's become a very controversial topic. And most all the videos online are incredibly one-sided against data centers. But I wanted to give you guys an unbiased presentation of both sides. List out the pros and cons, arm my people with the facts, so you guys can come to your own conclusions on what the future of data centers should be in St. Louis. I encourage you guys to watch this to stay informed, as some things might surprise you. So let's begin. First, this could be a pro or a con, but according to datacentermap.com, St. Louis already has 18 public data centers, with most being in the city. I work in cybersecurity as my day job, and I can definitely say there are data centers that are not listed on this map, mostly because they're either private company data centers or government data centers. After the billion-dollar proposed data center in St. Charles was shot down, there's a new proposal for a $1.5 billion data center to be built here in the Armory in Midtown, which was recently the largest bar in St. Louis that closed down. The proposal is to turn the building and this parking lot into 2 data centers. And there's a lot of public outrage about the data center, so let's get into those reasons before hearing the other side. Data centers use a ton of electricity and often a ton of water. And this new proposed data center is way bigger than any other one in the city. Obviously, the things people are worried about is the rising cost of electricity, rising cost and diminishing resource of water, and the environmental impacts that go into increased carbon footprint, and the amount of jobs being created for the data center being insignificant. Often when data centers are built around the country, it does increase electric prices in those areas. And the Missouri Public Service Commission does say it could increase prices here. And data centers that use water for cooling systems often use millions of gallons over extended periods of time. And data centers require a ton of power, and often that power is produced through non-green means like burning coal or natural gas, which would add more to the carbon emission in the area. People also mentioned there will be a lot of good paying jobs for the construction of the data center, but afterwards there will only be a limited amount of staff paid to maintain the building. Right now, the public is signing petitions and calling on the mayor to sign a 1-year moratorium. This just means the city would not allow permits to build data centers for a year. Now let's get into the pro data center side and tackle the issues one by one. Electricity prices are probably the biggest issue. Usually the spiking increase in electricity usage will cost the power company more. In our case, that would be Ameren Electric. And that increase in cost would get spread out equally among customers, meaning the prices would go up. But back in March, there was new legislature that passed, and it required power companies to make special deals with customers that use a lot of electricity, like data centers. And these special deals were to be made so regular people like me and you wouldn't have our electric bills go through the roof. In practice, Ameren would require data centers sign 15-year contracts. And these contracts would require data centers to pay a minimum of 70% of the total energy they are contracted for. This is actually a great deal. And according to the chief economist of the Missouri Office of Public Counsel, he said in theory this deal could lower the cost of residential electric bills in some cases. If data centers use less than the 70% of their max usage, they are basically overpaying for electricity, which might sound crazy, but it's actually possible. Improvements in artificial intelligence continue to become more efficient, using less and less electricity over time to do the same computations. Also, the customers that pay to be in the data center might not always be using the maximum amount of electricity provided to them. This, in theory, could save the power companies a lot of money and could therefore be reflected in lower electric bills for residents. Ameren themselves even said they don't want these deals to affect residential customers. Now let's touch on environmental impacts. An increase in electric usage will increase the carbon footprint of a community. But in reality, it's not a data center problem, it's a power company problem. If we want our city to be greener, we have to push Ameren to invest more in renewable and nuclear energy, and not resources like coal and natural gas, which Ameren heavily relies upon. The shutdown of the data center won't make our city greener if the power companies keep burning coal for electricity. Now, in terms of the scale of the energy usage, the St. Louis urban planner director said that the data center could consume as much power as 13,000 homes. But let me play devil's advocate a little bit. All the city employees are constantly trying to think of ways to bring more people to live in the city to increase their tax base. If for whatever reason 13,000 new people decided to move to the city, would the same city employees be protesting for them to go back where they came? They'd be using the same amount of energy as a data center. I don't think they'd want them to leave. The taxes the city would collect off this building alone would be around $304 million over the next 10 years, with $82 million going to public schools. That is without any significant tax breaks that could be given. To put that into perspective, that's more money than the Stan Kroenke NFL Rams lawsuit of $280 million the city got. And everybody and their mamas is always constantly arguing, what should we do with that money? St. Louis could potentially get a Stan Kroenke-sized payout every 10 years from the data center. This was a city built for 1 million people, and we have 1/3 of that population. The city wants more people as it's slowly losing its tax base. This could be a unique opportunity to inject billions of dollars into the local economy and potentially create a future successful tech hub. This location is also advantageous for many St. Louis companies that require high data speeds and low latency, such as the 2 extremely large and nearby medical campuses. Our Mayor Kara Spencer says that data centers play an important role in technology infrastructure, forward-thinking, forward-moving cities, and it is necessary to have data centers to attract other types of technology companies and technology innovation for the community. Data centers themselves may provide limited jobs, but the increase in jobs in companies that will use the data center could increase significantly. Modern technology is a key industry in St. Louis as it grows in the United States. A one-year ban on data center permits might just push them to find somewhere else to build it, instead of waiting around for a year just for another chance. And with the rise of AI and modern computing, these tech companies want data centers now. Right now, Google is putting data centers in our Midwest regional competitors like Indianapolis, Memphis, and a $10 billion one in Kansas City. But in conclusion, when done right, data centers can be a great thing for a city, but there's no guarantee it can always be done right. Data centers are a relatively new thing that old city laws haven't accounted for, and it can inflict pain into a city's population if they don't adapt. Instead of shutting down the project outright, St. Louis is carefully trying to set up regulations so that an electric and water-hungry entity doesn't take advantage of the financial well-being of its citizens. And a lot of this situation comes down to trust. Trust that the companies and governments will keep their promises that they set forward with. And I hope this keeps everyone well informed, as both sides have extremely valid points. We will see in the coming days if these plans will go forward or not. I don't claim to know the correct or right answer, and I'm looking forward to learning more about this topic in future conversations. Thank you for watching, and check back into my page for more St. Louis content.